Before speaking directly to the motion, Mr. Speaker, however, I wish to state that although I have not publicly commented on the salaries, pensions, or health benefits, I have, over my 7 terms in this Honorable House, had discussions with several of my colleagues on these matters, including my good friend, the representative from Central Clarendon, and he has a very interesting proposal. I don't know if he's going to make it today. The Prime Minister, who I do not regard as the de jure, but rather our de facto union leader for all parliamentarians. And as I said to you, Minister, you would be the General Secretary in your capacity as Minister of Finance. We have no representation, none. I'm reminded by a colleague of mine who left this Parliament, Mr. Speaker, that one opinion of his was twice the annual salary that he used to get. One opinion. So I agree with the member from Central. We give up a lot. When I became member here, I didn't know what the salary was, you know. For a couple of months, I was really dealing with what I was earning as a lawyer. When I heard that the salary was, I nearly died. Chicken feed, of course. The colleague told me that one opinion was twice times the salary that he used to get as minister. And let me tell you about sacrifice. Former Prime Minister asked us to reduce our salary. We did it by 15%. Nobody didn't say anything. We never get any commendation for it. 15% reduction. But if it was 15% increase, you'd hear whole heap of argument. Mr. Speaker, the issue of emoluments of members of Parliament has been the subject of much discussion, both publicly and in the House for as long as I can recall, and has been the subject of several special committees to examine the issue. Mr. Speaker, members may recall that there has been several reports of committees established by both sides of this Honorable House at various times. These include, Mr. Speaker, the Ashenheim report in 1973, 47 years ago, the Sasso review in 1981, some 39 years ago, the Fletcher review in 1989, 31 years ago. Is not yesterday, Mr. Speaker. And the latest report of the Parliamentary Salaries Review Committee, chaired by the Honorable Oliver Clarke, that was submitted in November 03, again some 17 years ago. Today, Mr. Speaker, 47 years ago, more than 2 generations after the Ashenheim report, we're all discussing and deliberating on these matters without arriving at any substantial decision. I have in my possession, Mr. Speaker, here the proposal that was made by the then governor in 1945. Mr. Speaker, I will now quote from a section of the article. April 26, 1945 marked what may have been the first occasion that the contentious question of compensation for parliamentarians was raised under universal adult suffrage. The pioneering MPs elected in December 1944 had only been in office for 4 months, having entered Parliament in January 9, 1945, when the matter of their salaries took center stage in the chamber at Headquarters House. It was Harold Allen, and I think his picture is somewhere. Oh, yes, yes. It was Harold Allen, independent member from Eastern Portland, who asked the House of Representatives to approve a motion contained in a message from the governor setting out the proposed salary of the MPs in the sum of £550 per year, 1945. This would mark a fairly substantial increase over the existing pay of £400 per annum. Mr. Speaker, an increase of 37.5%. The resolution was seconded by Alexander Bustamante. I say that because at that time that's how he was referred to. No disrespect. But it did not meet with the universal acclaim. Independent member, the Reverend Reginald Phillips from Clarendon Northeastern, informed the House that as much as he was grateful to the government for having granted the increase, his conscience would not allow him to support it. Quote, will it bear out the promise we made at election time? Will it help to heighten the confidence of the public in us? I, for my part, would welcome £1,000 a year in addition, but I would have to see a horn of plenty. And it is for that reason I fear the repercussion may be against us later on, he warned. So from that time, Mr. Speaker, you had members who were kind of, can't make up their mind. Alexander Bustamante was not swayed by the utterances of the Reverend Mr. Phillips. That member, he said, reminded him of the parson who said, thou dost not need gold nor silver, but at the same time he hands out the collection plate. The time has come, in my opinion, Mr. Speaker, for us to, as it is said, take the bull by the horn and settle these long outstanding issues regarding emoluments, pension, and health benefits for parliamentarians. Mr. Speaker, it was our very own Prime Minister, while addressing the issue of needs, that he said, and I quote, we dither, we procrastinate, and we miss the boat. That's what he said. Mr. Speaker, I adopt that advice as my own today, because we're dithering, we're procrastinating, and we've been missing the boat since 1945. As was stated most clearly in a recent editorial in one of our leading daily newspapers, Mr. Speaker, and I quote, in Jamaica, the basic pay of a government minister is around $5.6 million a year, which is approximately 7% less than what an ordinary MP earns in Barbados. An ordinary, let me forget ordinary. A Jamaican MP earns around 40% less than his or her Barbadian counterpart. Not much over $7 million, the Jamaican Prime Minister's basic salary, he's not in here, is around half of his Barbadian counterpart, about half. We're joking around. $7 million a year. I wish to point out here, Mr. Speaker, that the population of Jamaica is approximately 10 times that of Barbados, and that the GDP of Jamaica is estimated at 3 times that of Barbados. You will be able to correct me, Mr. Minister of Finance. The editorial continued. The benefits and retirement plans for Jamaican MPs, those who survive the electorate long enough to qualify for pensions, are not great. After politics in retirement, honest MPs often have to scrounge to meet health care and other bills. And I heard what the member from just said. Mr. Speaker, you and I know, I'm not going to call any names either. Former MPs have to scrounge because they hit rock bottom. Mr. Speaker, you know and have examples on your side, and I know and have examples on my side. That matter is impatient of debate. Mr. Speaker, oops, I can speak feelingly about this point. In 2016, when I had to do my back surgery, and very shortly because else I might have to sit, based on the parliamentary health scheme, my total bill for just the surgeon, assistant surgeon, and the anesthetist total some $1.7 million. And the health coverage total $376,000 plus, leaving me to come up with just under $1.5 million. Please note, Mr. Speaker, that that does not include the costs for the operating theatre, hospital room, medication, and therapy. It's a serious business. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, political representation has evolved largely into a system of social welfare rather than a process of advocacy on behalf of constituents. Or as Member of Parliament Leslie Campbell, my good friend on the other side, has said in an interview, he put it in a recent interview, when he goes into his St. Catherine constituency, every second man I see, his palm is turned up. In other words, voters in their economic stringency exact a personal cost on political representation. On the better clap because we know it's true. None of you can deny it. Mr. Speaker, I would not perhaps put it as bluntly as you have put. I was saying, Mr. Speaker, you put it bluntly when you said MP pay is rubbish. And I'm not disagreeing with you, Mr. Speaker. I congratulate you for that. Yep, 300,000 a month. Come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No. What are you clapping me about? I'm not finished.
Go ahead, Mr.
Mr. I seldom speak, but I feel strongly about this matter. You know, Mr. Speaker.
Order, please. The Speaker has given the member permission to sit based on his present situation.
Let me pause to share this anecdote with you. And it goes like this. When a country seeks a politician, they often want in him or her the strength of an eagle, the grace of a swan, the gentleness of a dove, the friendliness of a sparrow, and the night hours of an owl. And when they catch that bird or that candidate, they expect him to live on the food of a canary. And yes, that's how it goes. That's how it goes. Mr. Speaker, I am going to go further. If when you and I leave this parliament and you can't put two things together, them say you're a fool. If you can put two things together, them say you're a thief. I'm not asking if it's true. I tell you that that is so. Yeah. You said, Mr. Speaker, and I quote, to be a good parliamentarian requires that you have to take certain interests in the constituency when it comes to the people. For example, education, health of the family, the welfare of the child, and the environment in which people live. These are indisputable facts, and for many of us, it is the reality. Mr. Speaker, for us, therefore, Mr. Speaker, as a body, to put it proverbially, we are like the ostrich that buries its head in the sand. To avoid or to try to avoid this situation by pretending that it does not exist, that it is not becoming of our status or responsibility of us, the members of this honorable House. Mr. Speaker, one may ask, why is it important to deal with the issue at this time? But, Mr. Speaker, history has clearly demonstrated that at no time it is appropriate to speak about increases in emoluments for parliamentarians. No time. Every time is the wrong time, you can't do it. Even though we're hearing, and we're going to hear it, that's the wrong time. Never a good time. I'm fed up. It is estimated, Mr. Speaker, that the percentage of people 65 years or over is the fastest growing segment of Jamaica's population, projected to reach the 16.1% of the population in the year 2050, a 115% increase in the 43 years since 2007, when the figure was 7.5%. The age composition of the Parliament will, and in fact, does reflect this aging phenomenon. And so as we as Parliament consider programs and policies to deal with an aging population in the nation, so too must we address the issues affecting our members who have served the institution and the country for years. Mr. Speaker, consider this. When parliamentarians leave office, they do not receive a watch, not even a pen, as a memento of our years served. You know what I found as a joke? As Minister I'm telling me, I better keep the cabinet bag. The cabinet bag was the ugliest thing you ever see. I had to replace it. I had to replace it and give them back the food bag.
About memento.
Well, no, they said, I was told that I could keep it as a memento. That would not be seen in my house anywhere. What is wrong? What is wrong if you get a pen or even a watch? Me now look at the pen and watch because I have plenty. I'm just making the point is that they don't respect us. No. Finally, Mr. Speaker, parliamentarians seem to be the only set of public sector officials or workers without representation on welfare issues. Coming to that, Mr. Speaker, permanent secretaries have the Jamaica Civil Service Association that negotiate on their behalf. Permanent secretaries. The Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions and other associations negotiate for other servants in the public sector, be they teachers, as you heard from the minister, be they teachers, doctors, nurses, civil servants, or ancillary workers. All are looked after by their representative. In fact, Mr. Speaker, there are over 150 of these, as you heard from the Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, the question is, who looked after us as representatives in this House? Who looks after us? Right now, no one. No one. Well, I rely on my integrity report to show that I am not. But that's aside. Sadly, Mr. Speaker, no one. We need a union. We need a union. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, I am proposing that a negotiating committee consisting of the Speaker, the leader of government business and his or her deputy, along with the leader of opposition business and his or her deputy, be established to negotiate with the Ministry of Finance on issues of welfare for members of Parliament. We need a union. No, listen, man. When last have we been called as a Parliament to discuss our welfare? Never. And time, you know, it's coming up for me now to depart. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm about to close. Parliamentarians deserve better. It is time to do what is right. Nonetheless, Mr. Speaker, I still say, and I'm serious about it, I'm not joking, our union leader must be the Prime Minister, and our General Secretary of the Union must be the Minister of Finance, and we'll find a way for you to dovetail it into the committee that I just suggested. We have to meet and we have to talk. Mr. Speaker, like our new member from Portland said, and she's over there smiling, beautiful speaking can increase parliamentarian salaries. Can increase parliamentary. Is action going to do that? Not a bag of mouth.
Bobby, that's good, that's good.
As the saying goes, Mr. Speaker, Hope has no expiry date, but we must not die in constant spring. I hope you understand that, you know. Hope has no expiry date, but we must not die in constant spring. If you do not confront, Mr. Minister of Finance, you cannot conquer. If you don't confront, you can't conquer. And time has come for us to confront. Mr. Speaker, I thank you and Happy New Year.